the previous podcast was obviously aimed around mental health, and it focused a lot around how the pandemic affected you and how it affected the education and things like that. So the first question I'd ask you is, how do you personally think your mental health did during the pandemic? Like, do you think it was better in the first lockdown, or do you think it was better now?
I think that I was very lucky during the lockdowns, as I don't think my mental health suffered that much, but I think that's due to the fact that I started playing a lot of games, so I was constantly talking to my friends and constantly getting the interaction, which I think really helped me because I wasn't as isolated as I might have been if I didn't do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because I think that obviously finding your way out and finding things to do, it just makes it so much easier to sort of, meet with people, socialise, talk to people, and obviously stay friends with the friends that you had before lockdown. But personally for you, how do you think social media helped with that? How do you think social media as a platform, as a positive way to talk about how you're feeling, a positive way to show what you've been doing, how do you think that benefited you?
I think social media was very effective in a very positive way, as big creators started stepping up and actually talking about mental health and teaching younger people how to manage it and telling them that it's okay and that everything was going to be all right. I also think it was great as it was a creative outlet during the lockdown and another way to speak to friends and everything. So I think it was really positive.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I think a lot of the time, obviously TikTok became a much bigger and a much wider used platform, and a lot of the bigger creators decided to, create trends that people could follow and join in with. So I definitely think that social media turned from a negative to a positive platform in a lot of ways. And obviously when the Black Lives Matter movement began, and it started to circulate around social media, how do you think that can now be broadened, and how do you think social media can now be used for mental health and Black Lives Matter, and also supporting other movements as well?
Social media is very good for starting movements as it allows people to band together from all different countries, even when if they don't live near each other or can't actually physically meet up. So like Black Lives Matter was a huge thing on TikTok, and it actually brought light to the subject, which some people didn't know about at the time. And it allowed people to come together and support people. Again, with the mental health, that allowed people to support people in mental health too.
And I just think that obviously using social media for mental health, I mean, it's been used broadly for mental health for such a long time, but I think it can definitely be used a lot more now, with teenagers using it a lot more. But for students and teenagers, how do you think parents and adults can help? Like, what do you think that they can do to help us get our word out and theirs as well?
I think that maybe we could create like a social media platform for parents and teenagers to talk about it together. So parents and teachers and adults can actually talk and address and help teenagers who have really bad mental health or are suffering from like anxiety or any other mental health issues. And I think that would be very helpful.
I definitely agree, and I definitely think that that's something that we'll have to discuss obviously privately, and then post and publish and share on social media, because creating a social media platform is definitely a wide thing to do. It reaches a lot more people when we do it that way, so that is a really, really good idea to obviously get parents and teenagers to all be on the same platform and work together. And for you personally, I do know a lot of people our age that are finding volunteer work and are finding jobs and part-time pay and certain things like paper rounds that are just a couple of weeks or a few months where they'll work and they'll get paid for it. How have you found finding jobs and finding volunteer during COVID, or even now as it's easy, and how are you finding it, finding work and searching online and finding the information?
I actually had a job before lockdown. I was working in the office at my dance school, but because of COVID, it had to close. So I actually lost my part-time job because of COVID, and I've struggled. I haven't been able to get another job since. So unfortunately, I haven't got my part-time job at the moment.
For me personally, I've been trying to find volunteer work and other jobs like that, and even working part-time in supermarkets and shops. But for me, when I search it online, it's so hard to find the information that you really need. And it's also hard to speak to careers advisors, especially over email, because you don't actually know what you're asking. You can say, can you find me this information and that information, but you don't genuinely know what it is that you need to find out. So what do you reckon that websites and certain universities, colleges and schools can do to help 16-year-olds and above to find volunteer work and part-time jobs as well?
I think that they should make one website where all the information is stored, so it's not as difficult to find all the information that you need. I think they should also separate it into age groups, obviously, because sometimes you can find a job, but then it's not for your age. So I think that would be a really cool idea to do.
But for you, as a hard-working student in school, how has doing your school learning and doing your education at home been? Has it been harder? Do you prefer being in school and having this lesson structure there?
I think it's been harder because I've definitely found it harder to find motivation to do work. I have done work obviously, but I think it's harder to motivate yourself to get up in the morning and follow that set structure when you're not in school. So I definitely prefer going to school with the set structure.
I think I definitely agree with that. However, sometimes being at home sometimes it's easy, because when you can't find that motivation, you might even find it on an evening, but you'll still be able to do that work. Whereas when you're in school and you don't have the motivation when you're there, sometimes it can be harder. But I definitely prefer the lesson structure in school. What is your opinion on school opening this week? Do you think it's too early? Do you think it's been too late? Do you think that it's not such a good idea to test it in these 3 weeks? Or what's your opinion on that?
Honestly, I'm not sure, but we only have 3 months left of school, so I just don't think we should have opened till September, when everyone went back, because if everything starts back up again, then obviously we're not going to go to college and everything, which would really be rubbish. But I want school to open, but I don't know whether it's the right time to open, because I don't want COVID to all the cases to go back up and then everything to shut down again.
I mean, on the news the other day, Boris Johnson said, he said, I know that schools are opening again, but, I know that cases will rise, but the scientists and him don't actually know whether the deaths are going to rise along with those cases. I definitely agree with you, because, we've got 3 months left of year 11, but I think we all want to start college in a normal way. We don't want to go back to college and it be strange or, not having the same experience that we would have liked in normal circumstances. What do you think is the best strategy going forwards for the end of year 11? Because we're getting teacher assessed grades, what do you think should happen in order for us to get fair grading?
Just to be graded from our work as well as the tests we've done, because I think that would be more fair, because obviously tests are very hard to do at the moment, so I think it should go on our work that we've done in class as well, and obviously the work that we've been doing at home during lockdown.
I think for us, as students and obviously been doing work in lockdown, I think it'd be helpful if we got an outline from the teachers of how it's going to be graded, or even an outline from the government on how they're going to be graded, because they can say teacher assessed grades, but we genuinely don't know what that means. But I really do appreciate the fact that you've given your time to do this podcast with me and obviously answer the questions for just anyone, who needs to listen and who wants to listen.
Yeah, it was great talking to you about everything. I think that it would be a very good idea for teachers to fill us in on what's going to be happening, so we have more of an idea of how we need to prepare and what we need to do to get the grades we want. I think it would be a very good idea. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you for having me on the podcast.